You're listening to the Around the Huddle podcast, powered by PAC-Hub. Around the Huddle, college sports beyond the game.
Hello and welcome in to a new episode of the Around the Huddle podcast, where we talk about all things college sports beyond the game. My name is John Gross, so happy to have you with us for what will be another very insightful episode talking about college sports with somebody who has really been in the front line of a lot of innovative things in the world of college athletics. But before we get to our great guest today, a reminder that our show is powered by PAC-Hub. Take a look, bottom of your screen. PAC-Hub, connecting athletes with opportunities. Visit www.pac-hub.com. If you are a student athlete or you're a parent of a student athlete, right? You're out of school, you want to leave that school. So you enter the transfer portal. What happens then? How do you get noticed? That is where PAC-Hub comes into the fold. PAC-Hub is a place where you enter, coaches can find you, you enter your name, your statistics go in, your measurables, GPA, transcripts, anything that a coach can use to narrow down their search to find you, that's in PAC-Hub. And from a coach's perspective, same thing. If you want that right-handed pitcher, if you want that next piece on the hardwood that's going to take your team to the championship level, check out PAC-Hub. You can narrow down your search, a whole lot of different specifications that you can put in with your search to find the student athlete that you are looking for. Once again, PAC-Hub, bottom of your screen, www.pac-hub.com. Big thanks to everyone at PAC-Hub for their partnership. Okay, today's guest is a really cool guest. We've had head coaches on, compliance officers, attorneys. This will be our first conference commissioner. And our guest today is Commissioner Chris Colvin of Division II Conference Carolinas. Conference Carolinas is a 15-member Division II conference, soon to be 16 members with the addition of Ferrum later this year. At the end of 2025, with the addition of Ferrum, Conference Carolinas will feature schools in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia. And beyond the geographic diversity of this conference, the conference by the end of, by next athletic year, I should say, will also sponsor 30 sports. 30! That is the most out of any Division II conference and the second most in all of NCAA, only behind the Ivy League. Beyond those numbers, the conference has done some very revolutionary things. We will talk to Commissioner Colvin all about that. That includes reinstating football for the first time in 51 years, bringing women's flag football into the fold, divisions, KPIs, so many innovative things from Conference Carolinas. So without further ado, let's welcome in today's guest, the Commissioner of Conference Carolinas, Chris Colvin. Chris, thanks for hopping on today.
Thanks, John. Glad to be here.
Of course. Look, Conference Carolinas has been in the forefront of so many innovative things. We will dive into all of that. But one of the things that we've talked about a lot on this show, I guess I should say two of the things, the transfer portal, NIL. Those are two, of course, major changes in the world of college athletics. Some other things have happened in recent years as well. I'd love to know, as a D2 conference, how have some of the big issues in college athletics trickled down and impacted Conference Carolinas?
Yeah, John, I mean, those two issues are certainly changing kind of the underlying landscape of college athletics, certainly at the Division I level. You know, the transfer portal issues, the transfer portal really it's a tool that ultimately ends up making the transfer process simpler. Transfers were always happening. I would say they are happening more regularly now. We certainly see more student athletes leave one institution, go to another. You'll see, some of the more elite Division II athletes that they may get a Division I opportunity. And on one level, those things were always happening. The transfer portal is just a tool that ends up making that process a little bit smoother. On the NIL front, at least in Conference Carolinas, we're not in a situation where institutions are out creating collectives and offering money to student athletes when they're being recruited and things like that. But it does provide opportunities for student athletes, especially those with a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, to be able to capitalize on their name, image, likeness, be able to capitalize on a particular skill set or interest that they have. But I would say that the movement in the core of what Division II athletics has not moved nearly as much as what has happened at the Division I level.
Right. There is, and I could say it from experience, having spent 2 years at UNC Pembroke and seeing what the student athletes there do, there is very much an emphasis on the student side of things still in Division II athletics.
Yeah, and we don't ever want to lose sight on that. I mean, with the term student athlete is not one that's going away in our vocabulary, and it is still a high priority for all of our institutions.
Let's take a step into a different kind of portal, a time portal. Let's take a step into a time machine back to April of 2019. That's when you were appointed as the commissioner of Conference Carolinas. Of course, a year later, COVID begins. All of these major changes in college athletics happen. And from my perspective, there were kind of two different approaches. I felt like some conferences were very reactive to some of these changes and some of these societal things that were impacting college sports. There were other conferences that were very proactive. From my perspective, you all at Conference Carolinas seemed extremely proactive. Where did that proactive mindset come from?
I think from the time that I came into this role, I mean, myself and my staff, our goal was to modernize Conference Carolinas, to professionalize it, and just to take the base of what was in existence at that point and really just try to ramp it up. My philosophy is, it is our role at the conference office to help our institutions achieve their missions, using collegiate athletics to achieve their missions. And so everything that we do is centered around trying to help our institutions further themselves and use intercollegiate athletics to achieve their missions. And so, I mean, you're right. That first year was crazy in that, it was our first year. We got through 2/3 of the year. We had just hosted a basketball championship at Wofford, which was a phenomenal event for our conference. And then within a week after that, everything shut down. And then, the next couple of years were really about, getting that ramp back up. But we always tried to continue to be innovative throughout that process. And we're trying to continue that now.
In your time as commissioner, since being hired back in 2019, you've welcomed in 5 new institutions to conference, soon to be 5, into Conference Carolinas. That's another hot button issue, conference realignment. What has been Conference Carolinas' approach to that?
Yeah, our approach to realignment has been about finding institutions that we believe are good fits for our conference. And it's not necessarily like at the Division I level. Most realignment is essentially about money and whoever can grab the biggest TV deal and ultimately trickle down to the biggest revenue distribution for its members. That's not the case for us at Division II. For us, it has been about strategic goals and aligning ourselves with institutions that we want to be aligned with, and that will both align with the goals that we have of a conference and enhance the competitiveness. So, the addition and really the 2 primary goals that the conference has had around membership over the last 2 years has been focused on really 2 things. One was growing our membership to the point where we could regionalize scheduling more. The second was on getting to the point where we were able to sponsor football as a sport. And so we've accomplished both of those. We'll be starting football in fall of 25 for the first time with 7 institutions. We, with 16 members next year, those members will be split into 3 divisions. And we have a regionalized scheduling model that for many of our sports, in which teams play the teams in their division twice. And then they potentially play the rest of the teams once in basketball and volleyball, or in some other sports like soccer and softball play a subset of the rest of the teams in the conference, and that was under the goal of regionalizing the scheduling model. So we've added, like, as you mentioned, will be 5 institutions next year. Some of those have been institutions. 3 of them have been institutions that sponsor football. 2 of them have been institutions that do not, and they've all been institutions that we feel like align with our conference.
Can you take us behind the curtain when it comes to considering institution A for membership in Conference Carolinas? What's that process like to go from, hey, we're considering them, to, okay, welcome in?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a level of dialogue, and then when you identify an institution that is interested in pursuing conference affiliation, our conference gets together to determine first and foremost, is that institution a good fit for the conference? Are they an institutional fit? One of the things that our conference stands by, our tagline, is champions in body, mind, and soul. Obviously, most of our institutions are private faith-based institutions, but we do have 2 public institutions. We have 1 institution that does not have a specific faith-based mission, but all of our institutions are able to align with that philosophy. And then they're good mission fits, good size, resource allocation, et cetera. So if we identify an institution that we think fits well, and then the other question is, do they help us accomplish our conference goals? And like I said, over the last 5 years, those 2 goals really have been the geographic layout of the conference, and as what that manifested into a 3-division model. So does the institution fit well within one of our divisions is one of the questions. And then obviously growing the sport of football. We'll have 7 institutions this coming year. And so that's been one of the pieces of that as well. But first and foremost, it's about alignment of that institution. But the actual process involves a site visit with different members of our conference attending that. The board of directors is the presidents of all of the member institutions, and that is the group that has the final say on anything regarding membership.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm one of the PAC-Hub's AI specialists. Today, I want to show you why PAC-Hub is the ultimate platform for college baseball players looking to transfer to a new college program. First, let's take a look at our extensive network of coaches. With over 150 coaches actively using our system, you have a huge pool of experts to connect with. Imagine having access to all these experienced coaches searching for talent like yours. You even have the ability to connect with any of these coaches via our internal messaging system. This means more opportunities to showcase your skills and find the perfect new team. Now let's switch gears and see things from a coach's perspective. Coaches can easily search for athletes by position or stat. Let's say I'm looking for a left-handed pitcher with good pitching stats. With just a few clicks, I can find top-performing pitchers who meet my criteria. This efficient search functionality ensures that coaches find the perfect fit for their teams and athletes get matched with opportunities that suit their strengths. PAC-Hub is all about connecting talent with opportunity. Whether you're an athlete looking to transfer to a new college team or a coach searching for the next star player, PAC-Hub has the tools you need to succeed. Don't miss out on the chance to be part of this amazing community. Join PAC-Hub today and take the next step in your baseball journey. Visit www.pac-hub.com to sign up now.
You've referenced a couple of times the 3 divisions, which is one of the changes that you all have made and will continue to be a thing in Conference Carolinas. You also said that with that, you may not play every single team in the conference. So the solution that you all have come up with is to use KPI. Can you elaborate on what KPI is? I think this is something that is so cool and one of the innovative things that you've all done at the conference.
Yeah, so KPI is a tool. It's a results-based ranking tool that is really sophisticated. Where the creators of KPI really did a good job of coming up with a metric that takes strength of schedule into account and ranks teams. So KPI is used. It's one of the 5 primary metrics used by the NCAA men's and women's basketball committee at the Division I level. So you hear about KenPom and you hear about these other rankings that are being used by the selection committee for March Madness. Well, KPI is one of them. KPI at the Division II level is also being used this year across, I want to say it's 8 or 9 sports as one of the primary selection tools for advancement into the NCAA tournament. I serve on the Division II Championships Committee, so through that, I had a front seat at understanding what KPI was and hearing from the creator of it, Kevin Pagua. And so I reached out to Kevin directly and asked him, well, could you create a version of your KPI formula that only takes conference games into account? Because when you're seeding a conference tournament, you don't necessarily want, unless the philosophy is different, you typically, any conference that is putting a conference tournament on, they're seeding those teams typically by win-loss record. It's just the conference win-loss record. You're not taking into account those non-conference games. And so we were able to work with Kevin and the staff at Abacus, and they created a version of KPI that did not take into account non-conference scheduling. We also asked them to remove any of their formula that had anything to do with the score of a game. The base KPI formula does, to a very small degree, take margin of victory into account. Our ADs did not want that to be included because we didn't really want any incentive to run up the score and different things like that. So score does not matter. It is simply the result of the contest. The location of the contest, there is a home away multiplier in there where there's an adjustment made for whether the game occurred at home or away. And really it boils down to the strength of your opponent and to how many points you earned for that particular game. And then KPI is essentially the average of all of your individual game values. So you earn a value between -1 and 1 for every game you play. A win is going to be between 0 and 1. If you beat a really good team, it'll be closer to 1. If you beat a weaker team, it'll be closer to 0. And then the reciprocal of that is true for a loss. And so you average all that together, and it creates a numeric measurement that seeds that ranks the teams. And we're using that as our means to seed our conference tournament. We also, in the division model, we also wanted to prioritize division play. And so instead of a regular season champion, we are awarding division champions in all 3 of our divisions. And that is just based on the results of the division play. So how you do in your division games yields the win-loss record in the division. That's how we crown division champions. And then the KPI is just a tool we're using to seed the conference tournament. This isn't for all sports. We're doing it for men's and women's soccer, women's volleyball, men's and women's basketball, softball, and we are going to use it for baseball this year, although baseball is not in the division model. We're going to still use it for seeding the tournament.
That is so cool. That is so cool. And I love that you were the one who went to him and said, hey, can we develop this? That's an amazing story. I know you said that the NCAA uses this metric for selection for certain tournaments. Are there any other conferences that use it, or is Conference Carolinas the only one?
We were the first. And then after we did this for 6 sports last year, there's one other Division II conference, actually one of the very well-known conference out in the Midwest, MIAA. They are using it for a few of their sports this year as well.
Okay, that's so cool. And I would recommend everybody out there, go to the Conference Carolinas website, look at the standings, see how KPI works. It's a really, really, really cool thing. And again, truly innovative. We also touched on the fact that Conference Carolinas has soon to be 30 sports. These sports range from basketball to baseball, where Conference Carolinas is known as one of, if not the best baseball conference in all of Division II, to football, to spirit, to acro and tumbling. Basically, you name it, they probably have it in Conference Carolinas. So why is it so important for Conference Carolinas to have such a wide variety of sports that you offer?
So actually, the answer to that question is something I said earlier today, that it's our goal to help our institutions achieve their missions through intercollegiate athletics. And so we have institutions that have a wide variety of sports. And so if we have institutions competing in certain sports, we want to do everything we can, if possible, to come alongside those institutions and provide a championship experience for them. And so that's why we sponsor men's and women's bowling. We had 3 institutions that were competing in bowling. So we have, of the 30, 26 we sponsor on our own. And then there's 4 sports where we're in partnership with another conference. The bowling is an example of we partner with another conference so we could get to 6 collectively. But, we've got a sports like acrobatics and tumbling that with associate members, we're going to be up to 12 institutions next year. In men's wrestling with associate members, we have 15 institutions competing with us in men's wrestling right now. We sponsor women's wrestling. And we've mentioned, but we're the first Division 1 or 2 conference to announce plans to start women's flag football. That'll start next year for us. And similarly, that's a growing opportunity, and it's a great opportunity for our institutions to sponsor another women's sport, grow their enrollment, and have an exciting activity on their campus. So we're coming alongside and making that a value proposition.
Yeah, let's dive into the women's flag football storyline. That is such a cool thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I read that 6 Conference Carolina schools will sponsor flag football. That'll start in 2025 and 2026. As you referenced, just the 2nd NCAA conference to do so and the first in D1 or D2. So how did this come to be?
Yeah, and actually we're up to 8 now. When we officially announced it was 6, and now we have 8 of our full members. So actually, looking at our membership next year, exactly half of the Conference Carolina's membership is participating in our inaugural year of women's flag football. Women's flag football, I mean, if you watch an NFL game, watch Sunday Night Football, and there's some sort of commercial or tag or emphasis on flag football. The NFL is really working hard to grow youth, high school, and now collegiate flag football for both boys and girls at the youth level. But as you get up into the high school and collegiate level, it's obviously focused on women, with tackle football being their focus for the guys. But the NFL has put resources behind it, and it just didn't take us long. We reached out to them. They've got a company that's working for them to help grow it called RCX. We spent time talking to them, and relatively speaking, it's a low cost to entry sport. Women's flag football does not, you don't kick extra points or field goals. So there's no goal post required. You can play women's flag football on an existing soccer field, on an existing football field, on the interior of a track. So most institutions have a facility already that you could play it on. It's not quite as big as a football field. It's just a little bit smaller. So that works well. Uniform is similar to a soccer uniform. You have flags and a ball. And so there's not a whole lot of significant barriers to entry from a cost standpoint. And you have the NFL behind it. It is going to be an Olympic sport in 2028. The NCAA, we are hoping and expecting that it will become an emerging sport later this year. And I know the NCAA has talked about, Charlie Baker has talked about a goal of having women's flag football as a championship level sport in the spring, by the spring of 2028, as essentially a prelude to the Olympics that will happen in the summer of 2028 in Los Angeles. So we're excited to be a part of it. It's a fun sport. I got to go and attend the NAIA National Championship that was being played in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta last year. And it's a fun sport, and it's providing great opportunity and experiences for young women to play the sport of football that just hasn't been there before.
That is amazing. I'm so excited to follow this. I've seen a couple of games on TV and streaming online, and it's fun to watch. And you referenced the Olympics 2028 in LA. It'll be a sponsored sport, both men's and women's flag football. Did you all make that decision before they announced flag football would be in the Olympics? Was there any kind of crossover there?
I think that we were certainly well along the path of exploring this by the time that they made that announcement. But that announcement, I think that just helped. It just helped push the momentum along that already existed. And so from a timing standpoint, we were having a lot of conversation about it. We were really close. The announcement came out last spring about the Olympics, and then it was in the summer that we want to cross the finish line with at least 6 institutions and made our announcement. So it was certainly part of the momentum is probably the best way to phrase it.
Okay, so who knows? Next year, Conference Carolinas. A few years after that, maybe we'll see some Conference Carolina student athletes playing in the Olympics 2028. So looking forward to that.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm one of the PAC-Hub's AI specialists. Today, I want to show you why PAC-Hub is the ultimate platform for college baseball players looking to transfer to a new college program. First, let's take a look at our extensive network of coaches. With over 150 coaches actively using our system, you have a huge pool of experts to connect with. Imagine having access to all these experienced coaches searching for talent like yours. You even have the ability to connect with any of these coaches via our internal messaging system. This means more opportunities to showcase your skills and find the perfect new team. Now let's switch gears and see things from a coach's perspective. Coaches can easily search for athletes by position or stat. Let's say I'm looking for a left-handed pitcher with good pitching stats. With just a few clicks, I can find top-performing pitchers who meet my criteria. This efficient search functionality ensures that coaches find the perfect fit for their teams and athletes get matched with opportunities that suit their strengths. PAC-Hub is all about connecting talent with opportunity. Whether you're an athlete looking to transfer to a new college team or a coach searching for the next star player, PAC-Hub has the tools you need to succeed. Don't miss out on the chance to be part of this amazing community. Join PAC-Hub today and take the next step in your baseball journey. Visit www.pac-hub.com to sign up now.
And beyond women's flag football, you are also bringing back football for the first time in 51 years. Conference Carolinas will be sponsoring football. I just have to say on a personal note, as somebody who grew up in New Jersey as the only diehard college football fan in my entire high school, I've moved down south and I'm in a place where everyone else shares this same appreciation for college football. So I cannot wait for the start of Conference Carolinas football. What was the origin of this? I know you said that this was a priority for you all when you went out and looked for new schools to join the conference, but how did this come to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when I started in 2019, the conference had 4 institutions, 2 institutions that were playing football at the time that were future members of the conference. And then we had 2 more institutions, Barton and Erskine, that had announced plans to start football. So with 4 conference members out of, at the time, 11 core members that we had playing football, I've often said, there's nothing wrong with a conference that doesn't sponsor football. There's nothing, and it's not necessarily a conference that sponsors football is not necessarily any better than one that does not. But a conference that has football playing members and the conference doesn't sponsor it, that is a very high source of instability for our conference. And so we needed to add football for stability for our conference. We also wanted to add football because of the notoriety, the attention, the positive attention that it will bring the conference, and and the publicity and all the different things that will help elevate Conference Carolinas being a football conference. We thought was going to be great. So our institutions also wanted, they wanted to play football in the same conference that all the rest of their teams were competing in. They wanted their institutions to be potentially on a more level playing field with more like-minded institutions in a good geographic location. And we were able to accomplish that. And we're at 7 institutions for the 2025 season. We certainly would like to get that number up to at least 8. We think that eight would be probably a better number than 7 in terms of the number of institutions to sponsor it from a scheduling standpoint and different things like that. But we're thrilled, and we think it's going to be a great experience and opportunity for those 7 institutions and those student athletes.
I also read that I believe last February you announced a partnership of some kind with the SIAC. What does that entail?
Yeah, so one of the things we wanted to do with the start of football, and we did this before there was an automatic bid in Division II football, which as of 2 weeks ago, there's now an automatic bid in Division II football. So we're even more excited about this. We wanted to have a conference championship game. Well, at Division II level, there is not the same scheduled process in place that you see at FBS level. There's not a week after the season that you can play your conference championship, et cetera. So what we're going to do, and a couple other conferences do this, the SIAC is one of them. And so that's why, and then the geographic proximity. But we're going to take week 11 and we're going to match up our top 2 teams and play a conference championship game. And because there's now an AQ, that will literally be a berth into the NCAA tournament. The winner of that game will advance to the NCAA tournament. But by doing that kind of takes week 11 away from everybody. There are some Division II conferences that nobody plays week 11. You basically just play the first 10 weeks and the top 2 teams play week 11. But our institutions didn't want that. They wanted the ability to play a full 11 game schedule and play a game in week 11. So what we created was a model where our top 2 teams are going to play each other for the conference championship. Then we're going to have 2 teams, in theory, the 3rd and 4th place teams, but there are some geographic potential constraints to that. But essentially, in theory, our next 2 teams in the standings that didn't qualify for the conference championship, they're going to compete against what would be somewhere along the lines of the 3rd and 4th place teams from the SIAC. So it should be a good non-conference game. If those institutions are on the bubble for a bid to the NCAA tournament, it'll give them a good non-conference game to compete in to hopefully improve their chances of still making the NCAA tournament if they're not in the championship game. And so that's where that came from. And that provides an opportunity then for 4 of our institutions to play really meaningful game in week 11. And then we've got a plan for the other 3 as well. We just don't know who they're going to be, but we've got a scenario where all 7 teams are able to play a game in week 11, 2 of them playing for a right to go to the NCAA tournament, and hopefully 2 of them playing for a right to make hopefully a good season even better.
That's so cool. I'm looking forward to it. Again, 2025, 2026. That is the next athletic season. That's when football will begin in Conference Carolinas. I can't wait. We can never have too much college football. Never. So I am looking forward to it. As we've heard a lot of great innovative things in Conference Carolinas, and as we begin to wind down our discussion, one last thing I want to ask you about. We have some student athletes who may be watching, or parents of student athletes who are in high school and they're being recruited and they're considering, D1, D2, D3. What do I do? What is your sales pitch for Division II and Conference Carolinas in particular?
Yeah, I mean, Division II's motto is life in the balance. The idea of providing you an opportunity to truly be a student athlete, to go to school, compete at a high level of athletics while valuing and making sure that your academic experience is at the forefront and really important. So balance is the key word there. At Conference Carolinas, all of our institutions are smaller in nature, where you're going to have smaller classes. You're going to have a lot of attention from your students. You're not going to get lost at a big university. You're going to be at institutions that that have a real mission and are out there trying to accomplish that mission in a very strategic way. And I think it's a great tool and a great experience for a young man or young woman to be in that sort of environment. You're not just going to be a number, and you're not just filling a seat. You're really helping an institution, fulfill a mission, whether that's a faith-based mission, whether that's serving the area of, the regional area around them with education, whatever that is. There's a real intentionality to the institutions in Conference Carolinas.
And if you want to learn more about Conference Carolinas, you can do so by visiting conferencecarolinas.com. All right, Commissioner Colvin, thank you so much for your time today. Truly appreciate all of your insight. And you've been a great leader for the conference. The innovative things that you've implemented have been really cool and cutting edge. And I look forward to seeing whatever's next from the conference.
Great. Thank you very much, John.
Of course. Thank you. Once again, a big thanks to our guest today, Conference Carolinas Commissioner Chris Colvin, for joining us on today's episode of the Around the Huddle podcast. A reminder, we are powered by PAC-Hub. Take a look bottom of your screen, PAC-Hub.com. If you're in the portal and you want to get noticed, PAC-Hub is your place to go. It's how coaches can find you. They can narrow down their search. Your stats are in there. Your GPA, your position, all of these different metrics that a coach might want to, specify in their search for a student athlete. It's in PAC-Hub. So check it out, pac-hub.com. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode of the Around the Huddle podcast. Make sure to stay tuned to our YouTube channel. We will be back with another episode later this week. Have a good one, everybody.